Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the second Centre of English Studies webinar in association with IEFT. As always, it's an absolute pleasure being able to speak to all of you, and hopefully I can give you an interesting 45 minutes ahead. Just before we begin, I know we're being joined by quite a lot of people from Turkey, and everyone at CES has seen the news from the past weekend. And we'd just like to express our deep condolences with what's happened in Izmir, and our thoughts are with you today and always. As I said at the beginning, this is the second of 3 webinars that we've provided as CES. In the first one, we looked at all 8 of our centres in UK, Ireland and Canada. In our third one, which is happening next month, we're going to be looking at Ireland and Canada specifically. But today, for the second of the presentations, I want to look at studying English in the United Kingdom. And in particular, I want to look at the importance of variety and why having a choice of locations is really important for you as an agent and for your students as well. So, before I begin, I should start by introducing myself. My name is Johnny Cockayne, and as you can see from this photo, which has slightly darker hair colour than today, I've been working with CES for about 5-6 years now. My current job is as the principal of the school up in Edinburgh, but before then I worked as the Sales and Marketing Regional Manager, and it's using my experience in that role that I'm going to be speaking with you today. But I'm not going to be speaking with you alone. Instead, I'm going to bring some of my friends with me. Now, I'm going to show you some video clips. Unfortunately, the sound is not working on these clips, but I still have some people who would like to say hello. So that was introductions by 4 of my fellow principals here at CES. And although you can't hear them, I can tell you they were all speaking the same language. Unfortunately, they didn't all sound the same, because one of the great things about the United Kingdom is that there's a lot of variety there. The United Kingdom is made up of 4 nations. It's made up of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. And those 4 nations have one common language, which is English, spoken in every part of the United Kingdom, even up here in Scotland. So 4 nations, 1 language. But one of the wonderful things about the UK, it's got a lot of character. And that language is spoken by more than 56 recognised accents. So while some people might regard English as being spoken the way the Queen speaks it, in reality, when you're studying or visiting the UK, you're as likely to hear someone speaking with the honeyed tones of Wales, the rolling R's of Scotland, or even the slightly aggressive tone of Manchester. And this variety sometimes frightens people. It's one of the reasons why people tend to study in one particular area. Well, today, I'm here to tell you, don't be frightened by it. This variety is something to be embraced. Because after all, the UK is a fantastic country. And when you visit it, whether you're in the country or whether you're in cities, one of the reasons you travel is to take in all these different amazing sights. So why wouldn't you want to do the same with sounds? At CES, we like to provide options for students. So we have 8 different centres around the world, and we have 6 centres in the United Kingdom itself, starting in the north with Edinburgh and working our way down with Harrogate, Leeds, London, Oxford and Worthing. 6 centres, each of which have their own character and offer their own unique experience. And why is that uniqueness important? Why did we choose 6 such distinct locations? Well, it's because of these people, our students and your students. But they're not just students. Every single person you see here is a unique individual. They have different ages, different backgrounds, different dreams, different ambitions. And they will each learn in a slightly different way, and they'll each be looking for a slightly different experience. And here at CES, we believe it's important that we have different locations that can meet the needs of these individual learners. And I believe that's true for yourself as agents as well. We're always looking to provide individual approaches. And why is that important? Well, I'm going to split that up into 3 categories. In the first one, we're going to talk about winning the student in the first place. Now, the average person will see around 5,000 adverts every day. And I know that sounds like a massive number, but I want you just to think about it. How many adverts do you see around yourself in the paper, on radio, on TV, on billboards? Everywhere you go, you're being subjected to adverts that are targeting everyone. Students will also go out and do their own research. We are gone past the days where a student will turn up to an office with no knowledge of what they're wanting to get out of it. They'll have been on the internet, they'll have been checking out locations beforehand, so they'll already have an idea what they're looking for. But what they're looking for when they come to an agent is for you to be adding value. They don't want you just to repeat what they already know. They want you to be able to give them more information and put what they've researched into context. And perhaps more importantly, they also want you to be able to tell them when they've maybe chosen the wrong location, when there's another location that's better for them. And if you're an agency that can provide a great location that they haven't come across themselves, suddenly you're going to be an agency that they trust. So that's about winning the student. How about keeping the student happy? Why is having an individual approach really important? Well, from experience, we know that most complaints language students have when they go abroad are nothing to do with the course, but they're to do with the things outside, about the area they're staying in, about the city, the life. We also want to talk about engaging, because students who engage with agents about decisions are reporting very high levels of satisfaction, and you want to have satisfied students. The third section is talking about winning future students. If you've got a happy student, they are going to want to talk about their positive experience. And they're also going to be more likely to want to repeat that experience, because you don't just want a student once. You want that student to come back to you as an agent year after year after year. You want them to recommend your agency to their friends. And the way you can do that is by making sure you've listened to the student in the first place, you've given them something unique, and you've given them something they enjoy. And if you get all of that, those students are going to provide you with testimonials. We said right at the beginning, you could be exposed to 5,000 adverts every day. Advertising, it's lost a lot of its meaning. What still matters is the word of mouth of the student. And we're very lucky in that our students will give us positive reviews. So you can't hear what Paula is saying, but rest assured, it's very positive. But coming from her mouth, this means far more than anything I can say. So if you've got that individual rapport with that student, if you've worked with them from the beginning, you will end up with a testimonial that you can use to help yourself as you recruit further students. So, Paula enjoyed her time at our school. Why, as agencies, should you be coming to CES in the first place? Well, I could tell you it's a great school, or I could show you all of the accreditations and the awards we've won over the years. Throughout our 3 countries that we operate in, we have more than 20 different accreditations. We've been named as centres of excellence. So we really invest heavily in our teaching. We're also recognised by our industry partners. At the Star Awards at Study Travel, we are 11-time nominees. We won, first of all, back in 2007 as the top English language school in Europe. And for the past 10 years, that's every year since 2011 until the current one in 2020, we've been nominated for the top English language chain school. And these are nominations that are being given by our agency partners. And that's why they mean so much. Now, it is great being nominated, but I'm a little frustrated about these past 10 years. Not for the nomination, but for the category we're nominated in, because we're in the chain school category. And I've never thought of CES as a chain school. And that's nothing against chain schools, because chains can be really good. They're reliable. They're identical. You know what you're getting in each one, and they're dependable. Chains have built up over years, and they have a product that you can trust. But they're also a little bit dull. If you're going out on a date, you could go to McDonald's. You know exactly what you're going to get. But if you want to make her feel special, you'll go to a fancy restaurant. And that's what I think CES is more like. So yes, we have more than one centre, but each centre is unique. Each centre caters to a different student. And that's why I never see ourselves as a chain, but instead I see ourselves as a family. Similar, but different in many ways. And I'm delighted to welcome a member of my family along with me today, and that is İpek Kaleli. İpek is our regional representative based in Turkey. She joined CES 2 years ago, and she has made such a great impact within the company that she is now the first of many regional representatives we have. Because at CES, although we exist to help students learn our language, we believe it's important that as a school, we speak your language as well. And I don't just mean that metaphorically. İpek is fluent in Turkish, English, and Spanish, and her Greek's not bad either. So İpek is going to be helping me during this webinar. She is going to be answering any questions that you have in the chat window. And if you'd prefer to send a private message, İpek's WhatsApp number is going to be on the screen as well. So any questions, pop them in the chat, pop them in the question box, or alternatively, send İpek a WhatsApp message and she'll get back to you as we go on. So, İpek, it's lovely having you with me, and let's move on to the next step. I talked about a family. What does a family have that binds it together? It's the DNA. And for a family of language schools, that DNA is our core company beliefs. And at CES, our beliefs are every student deserves the very best experience. And the only way we can give them the best teaching experience is by having the best teachers. That's why at a CES school, you will find that whichever centre you go to, all of our teachers are CELTA qualified at a minimum, and the majority of them are going to have Delta level qualifications. We have regular CPD sessions to make sure our teachers are constantly on top of any changes within the industry so that you can rely on the fact that your students are getting the best teaching. We also believe that a student's experience is not just confined to the classroom, and that's why not only do we invest in having great teachers, but we have great administration teams. We have our own social program teams, making sure students are engaging with the culture, and we have our own accommodation officers finding the right places for your students to stay. We also, very importantly, believe a happy learner is an effective learner. So just as you want happy clients, we want to have happy students. So that's the DNA. That means there's going to be things that are similar in every school. And one thing that you're going to find in all 6 of our centres, in Edinburgh, Wimbledon, Worthing, Leeds, Oxford and Harrogate, are the courses we offer. So in all of our centres, we offer general and intensive English. We allow IELTS exam preparation. We can do one-to-one lessons, and we can do a combination of general classes and private tuitions. That can be found at every one of our centres. But the buildings are not exactly the same. They are different sizes. Again, they have a similar DNA. They're all former residential buildings, so they feel warm and homely. But they range from our smallest in Harrogate, with just 8 classrooms, to our biggest in Worthing, that is 13. In 4 of our centres, we have a maximum class size of 14, but in Oxford and Harrogate, that maximum class size is just 9. I'm not going to list all the amenities we have. All of the schools have common rooms. All of them have Wi-Fi. Most of them have student gardens. If there's something we can provide to make a better student experience, we have put it in. In terms of accommodation, at all of our schools, we offer homestay accommodation, and in 4 of them, we can also offer residential accommodation. And as I said before, when I was talking about the experience not just being within the classroom, we control our accommodation by having our own in-house accommodation officers, making sure we know every family that your student is staying with, and if something does go wrong, we are there immediately to get it fixed and to solve any issue. So that's the DNA of all the schools. How about what makes them unique? And if we're going to start off with one of them, why not start off with Edinburgh, a centre I know incredibly well. I'm very lucky. I've lived here for 20 years and it's a fantastic city. As you can see from these photos, it's bright, it's airy, and it's very welcoming. So, what can I tell you about Edinburgh? If I was just using statistics, I would tell you it's Scotland's capital city. I would tell you its population is just under 500,000 people, so it's a small capital city. I would tell you about the 4 universities that are there, which means it is incredibly student-friendly. I could tell you about the modern National Parliament building that was built in the early 2000s, indicating it's not just a historical city, it's also a modern, living, breathing city as well. And I could also tell you it's the gateway to Scotland, because when you study in Edinburgh, you're not just studying in one city, instead you're having the opportunity to explore this amazing country. I could tell you all that, but that's not what I want to do. I also don't really want to show you our amenities box, because as I said, a lot of these will be the same from building to building. Instead, I want to tell you what's unique about it. So to do that, I want to ask for a quotation. And who better to ask for a quotation than myself? So what do I say about Edinburgh? Well, for me, Edinburgh has that amazing ability to make a city feel like a home. It is a character all of its own, and there's so many opportunities to make memories here. And for me, that word home is very important, because in order to really learn a language, you need to be relaxed. And where are you more relaxed than at home? Edinburgh is very popular with younger students because it's a safe environment, but it also has something to cater for people of all ages. It's historical, it's cultural, and it's somewhere that wherever you go, you're going to discover something new. I am going to very quickly point out something in that box, and that's to say that Edinburgh, as well as being a language school, is also a teacher training centre, which means that people who want to become language teachers can start their journey with us at CES. So that's Edinburgh. Let's move from Scotland's capital to Britain's capital. Moving from a small city to the largest city in the UK, it's CES Wimbledon, which is based in London. Now, London is a world-renowned city. it is probably the city that most of your potential students will ask about. And there's a lot to recommend there. So, what did David, our principal, say? Well, David moved to London about 20 years ago, and he moved from a smaller town. And when I spoke to him, he said, I never saw myself as a big city person, but in Wimbledon, I have the best of both worlds. You'd never believe so much green space can exist just a few stops from the city centre. And I think this is really important, because when people think of Britain's capital city, they think of the 8 million people. They imagine it being big, industrial, and cramped. But what they don't necessarily think about are the 8 royal parks that you can find throughout that city, about the vast array of greenery and free space. Our school in Wimbledon is not in the city centre. It's about 10 minutes away by underground, but the benefit is that you have so much opportunity to relax. And London, it is one of those cities for students who want a cultural experience. There are 241 theatres in London. You can almost go to a different theatre every day for a year and not repeat yourself. So London offers a lot culturally and socially, as well as in the classroom as well. And it's also very well connected with public transport. Some students are a little bit worried about moving around the city, and for students who are maybe at elementary level, it is a little bit difficult. But for students intermediate or above, London is very easy to navigate. And that's certainly something at CES Wimbledon we can help you out with. So at Wimbledon, I also need to point out, we do have our own garden in the back where we host barbecues. And if you're very lucky, David and his band will entertain you. And when you think of the name Wimbledon, you do think of tennis. At CES Wimbledon, we have membership to a local tennis club, and we want to make sure that your students get the chance to play that fantastic sport. So that's London. We've also looked at Edinburgh. Let's move away from capital cities to somewhere a little bit smaller and maybe a little bit more English. Because if London and Wimbledon is an international city, Worthing is definitely an English town. As you can see from these pictures, it's beside the sea. And you can also see IPEC when she visited it last year. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. What did Susie say? What did our Worthing principal say when I spoke to her? Well, she said, every day at lunchtime, I go for a walk along the beach. There's just something magical about watching the waves go in and out that makes your troubles melt away. And for Susie, the beach is definitely a big selling point, because there's something wonderful about staying in a coastal town. And I specifically don't use the word seaside town, because a seaside town, you think of Blackpool, you think of maybe drunken tourists. A coastal town, it's more relaxed. It's a place where you can engage with the local population and the local culture. It's really popular with younger students because it's a small town. There are just over 100,000 people there, so you'll get to know everyone very quickly. It maybe doesn't have as many theatres as London, but it does have a thriving local cultural scene. And perhaps really importantly, there are lots of sailings and sports clubs. So again, if you have a student who's in their teens, early 20s, they're quite active, Worthing is a great location. They get the chance to practice their English, to immerse themselves in a culture in a very safe and accessible city, and they get to have great fun while doing it. And remember, Worthing is very close to Brighton and to London, so you can study during the day, but enjoy yourself even more at the weekend.
Jonathan sanırım teknik bir sorun yaşıyor şu anda.
Evet,
İpek
sanırım
Hanım
bağlantısı kendine. Beni duyabiliyor musun?
Evet, şu an duyabiliyoruz.
Tamam, sanırım bağlantısı koptu ama gelir diye tahmin ediyorum. Working'de kalmıştı. Biraz bekleyelim. Eğer olmazsa ben devreye girerim kendi sunumumda.
Tamam. Birazdan burada olacaktır diye tahmin ediyorum ben de.
Tamam. Kusura bakmayın.
Sizin kendisine bilgi vermeniz mümkün mü?
Pardon?
Kendisine bilgi vermeniz mümkün mü? Şu an sunum ekranında olduğu için fark etmiş olabilir.
Tabii ki.
Dilerseniz İpek Hanım, Jonathan tekrar bağlanana kadar sorular üzerinden biraz gidebiliriz ya da sizin paylaşmak istediğiniz bilgiler varsa onları alabiliriz.
Öyle ki ben birçok soruya yanıt verdim ama şöyle yapalım. Ben kendi sunumumu açmaya çalışıyorum şimdi. Oradan devam edebiliriz. Bulmaya çalışıyorum şeyden.
Hello, I'm sorry for that. I'm afraid we had a bit of a technical issue there. Can you hear me okay at the moment?
We can hear you, but we cannot just see your presentation now.
Oh, I'm just going to pop it back up just now. So I will share my screen. Okay, so hopefully that's us back up and running. Wonderful. Apologies for the interruption. I was telling you all about Leeds. I must have got too excited because Leeds is an incredibly exciting city. As I said, there are more than 1,000 retail stores and it has an amazing cafe culture because although you learn a language in the classroom, it's interacting with other people. It's using it as a form of communication that is really going to develop it further. And that's something Leeds gives you the opportunity to do. So I'm really impressed with Leeds as a city, and I've never met a student who hasn't had a great time while they've been there. Another thing to mention, for a city that was formerly industrial, Leeds is now one of the greenest cities in the UK, with vast areas of park and gardens where you can relax. So you can enjoy a coffee with your friends in a coffee shop, or you can equally enjoy one while sitting under the shade of a tree. And as Rob has cunningly mentioned in his quote, they also have an excellent football team and a not bad rugby team. So plenty of opportunities to engage with a different aspect of British culture, which is supporting your local sports team. Like Edinburgh, Leeds is also a teacher training centre, and it's also an IELTS exam test centre. So not only can you study for your exams with us at CES Leeds, you can sit them in the same place as well. So that makes it so much easier for your students. Okay. We're now going to move on to our two special schools, two boutique schools. And these are the two you might remember from the earlier slide. I told you have a maximum of 9 students per class. And the first of those we're going to look at is Oxford. Now, Oxford, you can see from these images, looks different to the other schools. And again, this is why I describe ourselves as a family. Not all the schools look the same, but they have the same DNA, the same belief in quality right at the heart of them. In Oxford, we've got pool tables, we've got kitchens, we've got gardens, We've got everything to make the school feel like a home. In fact, when I spoke to Peter, he said to me, it's the people that make Oxford. Students are attracted by the name of Oxford, but it's the people they remember when they leave. And I think that's absolutely true. A lot of students, when they're leafing through a brochure, they'll see Oxford, they'll recognise the name of the university as one of the great universities of the world, and they'll think, I'll go there. But having a great university doesn't necessarily make a city a great language school. Having the right people in place does. And that's what we have in Oxford. Because if we say Oxford's a famous university city, and then I was to tell you the population is just under 4,000 people, you would be quite surprised. Because that's not the population of Oxford City. That's the population of Wheatley, which is the traditional English village just outside of Oxford in which we are based. So immediately, we have a school that caters to a very different market than London would. So if you've got a student who wants to study somewhere quieter, Oxford might be their option. And in fact, I can tell you, Oxford is our most popular school with female students. It's peaceful, it's relaxing, it's got a thriving village community. You'll get to know the postman, you'll get to know the man who delivers the milk, you'll get to know the person who runs the local shop. It is very much taking your student and placing them in an English environment. And within the school itself, there are two special things. I already mentioned that we have a kitchen facility that students can use to make their own meals, to socialise. We want to take the idea of a home and extend it as far as we can. So from Monday to Thursday, we keep Oxford open till late in the evening so that students can stay together in the common room. They can watch Netflix together, they can cook in the kitchen, they can communicate, and they can use their English. So that's Oxford. 5 schools down, 1 final school to go, and it's probably my favourite school. It's CES Harrogate, which is our summer-only centre, and it's located in the north of England, about 20 minutes away from the city of Leeds. And again, you can see from these images the character that building has. It's 18th century, it's very classic, it's quite formal in places, but it has an air of education. It's a place where you know you're going to study and you're going to learn. So what can I say about Harrogate? Well, here I didn't ask the principal. I went straight to our managing director in the UK, Michael Quinn. I said, Michael, tell me about this town. Michael said to me, when I first got off the train in Harrogate, I thought this is nice. When I first walked through the gardens, I thought this is lovely. But when I had my first cup of tea in the famous Betty's tea rooms, I thought this is perfect. And it is. Because for a language school, for an English experience, what's more English than a lovely cup of tea? Harrogate's an English spa town, so it has a similar character to Bath, but has a population of just over 75,000 people. It has 200 acres of parkland that go right through the town. So again, it's green, it's open, and it's twice won the Britain in Bloom Award for the best gardens in the country. So fantastic place in the summer. And I suppose if we're looking at what makes a student happy, we're talking about being in a location where other people are happy. Well, Harrogate has 5 times been named happiest place to live in the UK. So for me, that's a great recommendation for your students. I wouldn't say Harrogate is for the younger students. It's not got fantastic nightlife. It's maybe not as exciting as Leeds. But for a student who again wants the quintessential English experience, a very relaxing experience, Harrogate works very well. Similarly, students who want to focus really much on their exam preparation, Harrogate is an excellent option. What am I going to highlight with the Harrogate box? Well, I'm going to tell you that it's safe, it's tranquil, and I'm also going to tell you that it's one of our exam centres. So there we have it. We have 6 centres within CES. All of them have the same DNA. They all offer high quality English language teaching, and they all have very experienced English language teachers and academic staff. But, and this is what separates the chain from the family, each school has its own unique character to ensure that any student can find an option that is right for them. And that, I think, is something that is so important for you as an agency. You want your student to realise the amount of effort and work you go to make sure they have a great experience. And you do that by making them feel as an individual and by making them feel special, by recommending options and giving reasons why. And when a student comes into your office, I'd ask you to consider 3 things. Think of the context. Why does the student want to learn English? I'd ask you to think of the environment. Where would that student be most comfortable? Would they be happier in a big city, in a town, or even in a village? And perhaps most importantly of all, I'd ask you to think of the student. Who are they? Who is the person in front of you who wants to learn the language? What are their goals? What are their ambitions? And where is going to be best for them? And if you remember context, environment, and student, I'd ask you also to remember C, E, and S. And when you think of that, think of Centre of English Studies. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I apologise for a few technical issues as you went on, but myself and IPEC would be happy to answer any questions that you have just now. Okay.
Actually, I tried to answer all questions from the question part and from the chat part. And I gave my email address too, if they have another question they would like to ask.
Perfect. I mean, I absolutely love doing these conferences. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get the chance to speak with people from all over the world. And at a time when we are not traveling as much as we have previously and as much as we would like to, it's a great way of staying in touch. And IPEC, I know yourself as a regional representative for CES, you've been such a vital part of that process, and agencies are always able to get in touch with you to find out about what we're offering.
Yeah, sure. Every time.
Now, IPEC, one of the things that we talked about, or we saw in that slide, was when you visited Worthing. Now, I say all the schools have got different characters. How did you find it when you came to visit? Did you feel the schools had different characters as well?
Okay, for all locations or for only Worthing? Which one?
No, for the UK. Did you find the schools felt different to each other?
Yes, sure. Actually, they have all their own characters. They feel like home. You feel like at home when you sit there. But if no problem for you, I can give some Turkish explanations to here.
Absolutely, fire away.
Okay. Arkadaşlar, şimdi herkese merhaba tekrardan. Bizim İngiltere, ben geçtiğimiz yaz bütün İngiltere şubelerimizi ziyaret ettim. Maalesef bu yaz da gidecektim ama pandemiden dolayı gidemedim. Bizim okullarımızın şöyle bir artısı var. Diğer okullarla kıyasladığımız zaman aslında bütün binalarımızın hepsi daha öncesinde ev olarak kullanılan binalar. Ve bizim Care Excellence and Success aslında bizim açılımımız. Care kısmı da Jonathan buna çok değinmedi ama biz bir aile okuluyuz. Bizim sahiplerimiz 3 erkek kardeşler ve binalarımızın hepsi öncesinde ev olarak kullanıldığı için hem o binalardaki ev ortamını hem de okulların sahibinin aile olmasından dolayı sizi tamamen kendi evinizde gibi hissettiren çok farklı karakterleri var bütün UK lokasyonlarımızın, öyle söyleyebilirim. Thanks, Johnny.
Perfect. Now I'm going to see if IEFT, if they want to say anything themselves. What I'll say as closing remarks from myself is that I know there's a lot happening in the UK at the moment, but UK language schools are still open and we're still welcoming students. The desire from students to learn a language will not go away, and the need for students to learn a language will not go away. The industry continues to evolve. We have added, I saw some of the questions were asking about online learning. We have added online learning to all of the schools. We offer online lessons followed by face-to-face lessons, and we also offer 100% online lessons as well. Industry will continue to evolve. Teachers and students will become more and more comfortable with online teaching, but face-to-face teaching will always be the very top option, and it will never go away. At CES, we've been here for 40 years, helping students achieve their language dreams and their language goals. And we fully expect to be here for another 40 years to come, and we hope to be welcoming your students for those 40 years as well. So if there is anything myself, IPEC, or anyone in the CES family can do to help, please let us know. And if any of you would like us to speak to counsellors within your agencies, just let us know. We're always happy to be there.
Jonathan, there's one last question in the questions tab, actually.
Perfect. What is that the question about the online intensive?
I believe the question from Necati Bey. I'm taking his email address right now, and we'll get in touch with him.
Perfect. About the tuition and fees.
Yeah.
So we do have fee lists that are available on our website, but the best thing to do is contact myself or IPEC, and we'll get that information sent out to you. Because then we can talk you through any questions you might have. Okay, and for IELTS preparation, we can certainly help out with that as well.
So it seems you covered all the questions, İpek Hanım.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes, that was good actually, because we received many questions in the chat box and questions tab in the part. So you replied all of them, so that was fantastic.
Yes.
Jonathan, IPEC, thank you very much for joining us and the great presentation, all the information you provided. It was very fantastic. Thank you again. Is it possible to share your contact details in the chat box again, maybe for the further questions they can reach you?
Certainly, I'll put it in the chat box now. So I'm just popping my... Now, unfortunately, my parents cursed me with a name that is very difficult to spell, so I am going to make sure it's written out. It is a surname that meant I could never become a doctor, unfortunately. So, there we go. So yeah, as I said, please feel free to email me. I'm always happy to help. And if there's anything we can do to help your agencies, as I said, speaking to counsellors, if you'd like us to arrange bespoke sessions, please let us know. And also look out for our third talk with IEFT, which will be happening, I think, next month, where we'll tell you all about Canada and Ireland, two really exciting destinations.
Thank you very much again. It was very nice to welcome you at the IEFT Talks webinars.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
So see you.